Welcome to B Flow Sessions, the podcast where we help you find the flow in life and on the river. I'm Brad Burden. Join me as I talk to paddlers, athletes, and adventurers who are all seeking the flow. B Flow Sessions is supported by the brands that keep us moving downstream. Dagger Kayaks, wherever there's water. Sawyer Paddles, crafted in Oregon and whitewater proven. And Stohlquist PFDs, conquering wild waters since 1977. Support the companies that support the flow. Welcome to B Flow Sessions. This is a brand new podcast, and I'm so excited that I've got my best friend in kayaking, Pete Gallo, here with me to be my first guest on B Flow Sessions. Pete, welcome.
Well, thank you, Brad. I'm honored to be here. Really excited about this, and I really appreciate you taking the time to think of me and have me as part of this podcast.
Yeah, so Pete is a longtime kayaker. He started at the NOC in like 1996.
95. Yeah.
1995, and became an instructor. Him and I met. We taught lots of kayaking together, and then we had the just great adventures of going out west together on the freestyle kayak tour. Both were members of Team Dagger for a little while, and now we're both in our mid to late 40s, and we're rediscovering kayaking kind of all over again, kind of at the same time. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. A little more late 40s.
Well, we don't need to,
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
anybody your exact age there, but.
yeah. So
And then we're up here on Pete's beautiful property up in Sylva, North Carolina. Him and his wife Liz have recently purchased a place and got a place closer to whitewater to come enjoy.
yeah, so I took a long time out of paddling. So back in 2006 or seven, Liz and I moved down to Florida and wanted to go down there, try to find some work and kind of be closer to her parents. And I took a long time off of paddling. So about once or twice a year, I'd come up and paddle, but not as much as I did. But recently, now here in the last year, 2 years, you kind of got me back into paddling again and gave me the bug. So we've been paddling this year. I paddled more than I have in probably 15 years, and feels good. Something I'm doing, keeping active.
Yeah, so Pete, that's awesome that you're kind of rediscovering your flow in kayaking. But talk about finding that flow in kayaking at the very beginning. How'd you find your flow?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. So I remember when I first got to NOC and hanging out in staff housing and meeting everybody, and it was very new and exciting. And we'd sit around staff housing at night, and these kayakers would come in after paddling all day, and they would talk about their day on the river and how awesome it was and amazing. But the one thing they kept talking about is how intense these rapids were and how scary everything was. And then we watched these videos, and I would watch this, and at first I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to do that. So I started mountain biking pretty much the first month or 2 months I was there, and didn't really get into kayaking yet. And then I started meeting some people around and they had me go out to the lake, and we were messing around the lake, and that kind of got me the bug of it. Actually, rewind a little bit. When I first came through NOC, I found NOC when I was hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and I
Okay.
saw all these people going down in these rafts and kayaks and ducky. And me being someone that has always been this kind of daredevil, always want to try something extreme, I went to the store and asked them if I buy a kayak and I go down the river, can I do that? And they kind of laughed at me and they said, no, you need to go instruction. You need to learn how to do it. And I said, well, what do I need to do with this kayak? How do I learn how to kayak? And I don't want to pay for instruction. And they said, well, there's a lake over there. Get in the kayak and then just learn how to get out of it. So I said, fine, I'll do that. And I did. And I went up to the top and went down in the kayak and swam a bunch. It was me and some friends. And at this point, I wasn't even planning on staying at the outdoor center. That was our first day there. Then the second day, we we got up and we went down again in Duckies and had a blast. And at that point, I realized I didn't want to leave. And I wanted to stay there. So I put an application in Aurelia's Garden, decided to stay. I got the job, and then started meeting all these kayakers. And as I met these kayakers, I realized how dangerous the sport was. And it was really scary to me at first and hearing all these people's stories. So I started, like I said, mountain biking and getting into that. And that was a lot of fun. But then I started wanting to learn to kayak, and I met this group of people. In fact, John Miller was one of the first people I met there, and John took me out, and we went and put in right across from Hellard's and
So on
start
the Nantahala
on
River.
the Nantahala
Mhm.
River. Yep. We put in and we get about maybe 50, 60 yards, and I pull over and I get out. And I was like, I can't do this. I was actually scared.
So you were not in the flow at
I
all.
was not in the flow. And John was amazing. John was like, don't worry about it. Maybe this, we can try again. So I was like, okay, we'll try again. So I kept mountain biking and I got really heavy into mountain biking. And then one night we're hanging out, and this was probably another month. And one night we're hanging out, and John's like, you're going to come to the lake with me. And he took me and a couple other people, and we started paddling, and I started really enjoying it. And John was the one who kind of got me in that idea of you don't have to do that extreme stuff. You can just paddle and have fun, and it is a lot of fun.
Hmm.
So the next year when I came back to NOC, I started really enjoying paddling a little more. Started learning how to get on the Nantahala River and learning basics. Even then, I wasn't paddling a lot, wasn't really hardcore into it, and decided, I like paddling, but I still like mountain biking even more, and wasn't really into kayaking. So, long story short, it took about 3 years of being an NOC that until I started really getting into kayaking and wanting to do it more and more.
So pretty slow progression compared to, a lot of people will learn how to roll and they're doing the Koei within a month and they're on the Golly that fall. But you had a pretty slow progression with your flow. Would you, if you were to recommend kayaking to other people, what should they do to get into the sport? And, w- what's the best way for other people to find the flow in kayaking?
Well, I think the best way to get into the sport is, go out on a lake and just get into a kayak and feel comfortable in it. Flip over, swim out of it. Don't even use a paddle. Just understand the kayak when you're upside down, where you are. And that really helps with progressing in kayaking.
Hmm.
And I wish that was something that I learned early on, and I didn't learn that. It was you need to learn your role, you need to learn these skills, and I'm trying to learn them. And Brad, it took me a solid year until I had a role, and my role was never consistent. I was swimming everywhere, but I loved it so much that I got to the point where I'd go to the Nantahala Falls, I'd do a pirouette, and if I didn't roll, I'd swim, get my boat,
Do
walk back up, and do it
it
again. And
again.
I didn't care I couldn't roll. And it was more for me because I was trying to muscle it, and I
Hmm.
didn't understand the finesse of it.
Right.
So when you're first learning how to kayak, get comfortable in it, feel relaxed in it, and understand where you are, and that'll help you really appreciate and enjoy kayaking.
So you mentioned John Miller. John Miller was one of the longtime instructors at NOC. He was a head instructor for a long time. He was one of my mentors. Obviously, he was
Yep.
a big mentor to you as well. Who else in kayaking were kind of your flow guides?
My flow guides, I would say Shane Williams was a big flow guide for me.
Hmm.
Him and John were both instructors, and they took me under their wing and really helped me helped me progress in a way that I always felt like even if I made a mistake, they were there to help me. And it
Hmm.
wasn't that if I made a mistake that they would beat me up or chastise me or tell me I wasn't, and they never told me I was never good enough. It was the opposite. So as you were learning skills, they would always encourage, 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 and that's what something that I personally needed, and that helped a lot. Some of the other ones, like Craig Parks, was someone that wasn't quite a mentor, but he was someone that I paddled with a lot, and he was always helping out with, hey, try this and try that. So he was always giving me instructions. And I think the other part was like you as a good friend, and as we started paddling together, you were very encouraging as well of helping me, like, hey, try this or try that. And I think with the two of us being competitive,
Yeah, we're always
we're,
pushing each
we're
other.
always trying to push each other, but
Yeah,
it was always in a positive
for
way.
sure.
So that
Yeah,
helped a lot.
it's like you find that a lot, like competitors, but really good friends who have this, mutual respect for one another and like give each other crap off the river
Hmm.
in a fun way, but then like
Yeah.
on the river, like totally have each other's backs and just like brothers. Like if somebody else said something bad about you, or not that anybody ever said anything bad about you, but maybe they did me, and like you're always there to defend them, but then you'd be the first one to like make fun of them to their face.
Right, right. Yeah, just what you do with a brother,
That's exactly
like
right.
I have the right to beat you up and to make fun of you, but no one else
No one
does
else
out there.
does.
They haven't earned that right.
All right, so this next segment is perfect flow. I want you to think and tell me about a time or maybe multiple times when everything was just perfect on the river.
Oh man, that's tough. There's been a lot of times where everything's been perfect on the river. Um, so one time comes to mind when I would say on the Nantahala River at Corey Rapid, we dialed in Corey Rapid, and it took a long time to get that rapid perfect, but it turned into this beautiful hole,
Hmm.
and we would spend as many hours per day that we could at that hole. And it became one of the destination spots where all of our friends would come there and we'd all hang out and just play there for hours and hours. And there are times where you're just sitting in that hole and everything disappears. And I would say for like a destination play hole, that's the spot. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it was one of the best play spots in the southeast during that time, kind of early 2000s, and now it's just a wave train through there.
Yeah, it's gone. It's
I
kind
was
of
just through
sad.
there today, and it's just a wave train.
Yeah.
All right, so the opposite of that, I'm going to call this segment flood. So tell me about some times on the river when things did not go right.
Oof. Oh, so mm, on the Green River, the Narrows of the Green, the day before I go to the green, I had to go get some shots because I was getting ready to start school over at Western. So I had to get shots for school, and I had to get like the measles, mumps, all those shots.
Yeah,
So I get them the day before, and then the next day I wake up and I go over to the green. And sometimes you get those shots, you feel like you're sick. You get that flu feeling,
yeah,
and put on, and I'm feeling a little disoriented. I'm not
okay,
feeling me. I'm not feeling that flow. So we start and we get to that first rapid Frankenstein,
yeah,
and we get the big rock on the right. And I come into the pool above, and I've done this thing 100 times. And everybody goes through, and I'm the last one. And as I come up, I'm just slowly coming into that little chute, and Frankenstein's on my right, and not even thinking, I brush up against the rock and I get sucked under. And as I get sucked under, I start looking up and I can see light, and I'm like, "What the heck?
yeah.
This is not,
This isn't good.
this is scary. This isn't
Right.
good." So as I see the light, I kind of look over and I start take my paddle and I pull it out towards the current, and I get sucked out, and I actually get out of out of the rock, and I was like, "Holy
Oh,
cow!"
the undercut. Yeah.
So about two rapids down, everybody stops, and I catch up, and they're like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me get out of my boat." I get out of the boat, and I was letting everybody know, I'm like, "I'm feeling a little off, and I'm just gonna take it nice and easy today." So we get down to Gorilla, and I wanna run Gorilla, and I was like, "Not today, I'm not gonna run it." And that was one of those choices in life, like, I felt like I could, but I knew that day was one of those days where I felt off, and I wasn't at 100%, especially after what happened to Frankstein. I'm like, "I'm not gonna run it." So I didn't run it, and then I just kinda barely made it down the river. And it really opened my eyes to kayaking of when you have a bad day on the river, it's okay to walk these rapids.
Yeah.
It's okay to, and everybody I was with, the group of guys that I was with, they were all encouraging that too. Like, hey, if you're not feeling up to it, don't do this, don't do that.
Right.
So about a week later, I got my redemption, went back, ran all the rapids and felt good,
There you go.
but not running those rapids. But that was really scary because it's one of those rapids that's the easiest on the river. I mean, Frankenstein, you just, there's really not a lot of thought to it. You just kind of go through. But that split second when I wasn't paying attention, I could have got shoved under there and not gotten out. So that was pretty scary.
So low flow times when you've been out of or away from kayaking, choice, injury, job, family. You mentioned in the mid 2000, the mid aughts there, moving to Florida. What was that like? Just paddling 200, 300 days a year to almost not paddling at all. And I think you're kind of like me. Like it was something, maybe a little bit of burnout, but also like if I'm going to move on to this other stage in life, I've got to just almost step away from it completely.
Yeah, it was hard. So moving to a new place, trying to make new friends, and not having kayaking, it was pretty difficult. I'll be honest, I had a little almost depression, and it was because I didn't have that extreme sport that I was doing all the time
The
and getting
adrenaline.
that adrenaline.
Yeah.
So after the first year of being down there, I was kind of lost, and I needed to find something that can help me fill that void. So I actually found dirt bike riding
Yeah.
and started dirt bike riding. And from from I would say the first 5 years, it was just kind of on and off here and there and doing a little bit. And I'd say in the past 5 years now, I've actually become obsessed. It kind of filled that kayaking. I became, and like I did with kayaking, I like to compete in things. It gives me something to focus on, and it gives me a goal. And if I don't have that goal or that focus, it's hard for me to I'd say to it helps keep away that depression.
Yeah. Gives you
So
something to
it,
focus on, something to shoot for,
something
something.
to shoot for,
Yeah.
and then
A drive.
it I have to work out. I have to do all these other things that go along with it to become better. So then, you know, that really filled that void for me was riding dirt bikes and
Yeah.
doing enduros.
What correlations do you find and feel between dirt bike riding and kayaking?
Oh, so it's funny you ask that because when you're in a kayak, it's all about form, and it's really you have to sit up tall, you have to sit forward, aggressive. Your posture and your core, center core, is very important. And when you're on a dirt bike and you start riding competitively, it's the same exact position. You sit up tall, you have to stick your chest out, and it's a lot of core. And you're using your knees to grip the boat, and you're also using your knees and legs to grip the bike. So once I started getting on a dirt bike, I picked it up really, really quickly because we're using those same kind of not same kind of, it is the same form that you use in both sports. So sitting up tall and sitting forward and aggressive.
And as we've joked before, I'm not a big fan of motorized forms
Yeah.
of sports. So I definitely have done mountain biking and road biking. I've never been on a motorbike in my
Oh,
life.
I'm gonna get you on mine.
I don't know if that's going
I
to happen,
will.
but I would imagine very similar to mountain biking and kayaking. The idea of like leaning into a turn and the way you take turns um, is probably very similar to like carving into an eddy or something.
Oh, it's actually the same. So that flow when you're going down a river, especially a creek, and you see all the lines way ahead of time. So you're looking way down the river. You see that rock, you boof off that rock. As you're boofing, you see where you're going to land, you see the next one, and it becomes that flow. And going down the river, and once that flow happens, everything disappears. And that's that moment that we're always chasing on the
Yeah.
river is that. And when you're riding a dirt bike through the woods, it's identical because I'm having to look down that trail and I'm going for sometimes 25 to 35 miles an hour through a single track trail in the middle of the woods, and there's trees right next to you, and you have to look way down the trail, and there's turns and trees and rocks, and making those decisions in split seconds. When you're first learning it's it's very reactive. You're just reacting to everything. But then as you become better and better, you're not reacting. You're already seeing it before it even happens.
Mhm.
So it becomes that flow and everything disappears and you're just in that zone. And that is the same kind of rush you get with kayaking. So going from the class 5 whitewater and then doing the hard enduros and looking for those class 5 enduros where you're climbing up mountains and going down these big boulder fields and up these creeks, dry creeks on a motorcycle, it's that same thing.
So in kayaking, we have a scale of 1 through 6 to judge rapids. Skiing has like blue, yellow, black diamond. I'm not really for sure all the rankings of skiing.
Mhm.
Are there rankings for enduro trails and things where you can judge the difficulty?
Yeah, they do. I think each place where you go to has their own. There's at Highland Park in Georgia, and it's on the west side of Atlanta. They use the same thing as a ski resort. So they
Okay.
have a single black diamond, double black, and then I think they even have like a quadruple black diamond where it's the hardest you can go on. And then some other trails they'll have, some other places will use colors where they'll use like
Sure.
green is easy and then orange and then they'll use red.
Right.
So as your skill level, hey, I know I can go on this one. And then the majority of them they just use easy, medium or easy, difficult, and then hard trails. And then you
Okay.
kind of pick them. So I like the ones where they use the ski because we look at it and we're like, man, I can do a double black diamond. That's not going to be that hard. And you get in the middle of this trail and you realize this double black diamond is not the same mentality as a ski double black diamond. This is way harder.
Right.
So, but the consequences, the one thing that you're on a dirt bike and whitewater kayaking that I found is the consequences on the dirt bike are you're going to break something. You might break your shoulder, your arms, and that. In kayaking, the consequences are much higher because
Okay.
if you mess up there, there's a there's a higher chance of having a more severe, you can die.
Right.
Where on dirt bike riding, you're going to break something. So
Yeah. I mean, unless the
that
crash is bad enough, I guess. I mean,
yeah, unless the crash is bad enough,
yeah.
but which you know you're riding at your ability. If you ride above your ability, that's where it happens. And same with kayaking. If you're paddling way above your ability, of course those things are higher risk. But for you and I, when we're running those big rapids class 5, even at the top level, things can change very quickly.
Hmm.
So,
So you mentioned getting back into kayaking now, and I'm kind of reemerging in the sport, and this podcast is one of the ways in which I'm doing so. But also, launching a paddling program up near where I'm from in Louisville, Kentucky, B Flow Kayaking, just a way to get people in that area back into the sport, and talk about kind of teaching kayaking and like if you were you mentioned like your advice, hey, go start in a lake, but if let's imagine you're actually teaching someone maybe on the river. What was instructing like, and what do you like about teaching kayaking?
so really, what I loved about teaching kayaking is when I was on a river, and especially people who are just beginners, and the first thing we teach them is how to get out of a boat, how to swim. So once they've got that skill, we get them on the river, and we're just doing like a basic ferry move. And my favorite part was watching them come down the river and catch an eddy and not flip over and watch their face
The
when they
smile.
get it, that smile,
Yeah.
that excitement. And when you see them get that excitement, they're hooked. They want to come back. They're like, "Oh, I feel that that happiness that on the river of trying something over and over and then once it clicks, that's it. You're hooked." And that was my favorite thing about teaching is when they learn something, they get it, and that excitement comes.
What do you
So
think's the biggest, like one or two biggest flaws or errors you see of beginner kayakers on whitewater? Like, if you could pick, like these are the two or three things that I see the biggest faults, or I see the most of, or I see more beginners messing this up that they need to really work and focus on.
I'd say the number one thing I see is they're in their own head.
Okay, so mentally,
Like just mentally is the first thing. I think they're thinking way too much and they're beating themselves up too much because
okay,
I'll meet somebody on a river and they'll pull in and we start talking and right away I pick up on those little signs that they're saying things like, "Oh, I wish I did this," or I messed up on this and I messed up on that. And having that mentality of having to do things perfectly or right all the time is not the way that you want to start kayaking. It's really thinking about, hey, I pull into this eddy, I made a mistake, no big deal. I get to do it again. I'm
hmm,
going to go do it again. That didn't matter. Of really thinking, hey, what did I do wrong? I can fix that, but it's all about just having fun.
yeah,
The second thing I would say is I notice some kayakers will get go onto a river that's just a little above their skill level, like the Akoi is a great example. We'll see people go on the Nanahala and then they want to jump over to the Akoi and they get on that river and we can see their skills aren't quite there yet. So they're really just surviving on the
right,
river.
yeah,
And to me, that's that second thing of really understanding where your level is, but being patient and really honing those skills in on the Nanahala or the French Broad or maybe the Tuckasegee, and learning those skills enough to go uh, onto the Ocoee
Or
or
more
a bigger,
challenging rapids.
more challenging rapids. So you're not getting discouraged and constantly swimming, because then you're not learning. You're
Right.
just surviving. So, that would be the second. The third thing, I mean, it's really is practice just catching eddies and ferrying.
Yeah.
Catching eddies, ferry, do that enough, and the rest of it just kind of falls into place. Really, really, and I think along with that, and I didn't say it earlier, is it's your posture.
Yep.
It's sitting up in the boat and sitting correctly every time, and not letting that posture fall. And if your posture is out of place and you're not in that right position, then nothing, it doesn't matter what you do, nothing's going to be correct. So
That's
your
what I
posture
see
and then your
more
ferry.
so than anything is beginner kayakers really back on their stern,
Yep.
and not catching eddies. Just
Yeah.
happy with starting at the top of the rapid and making it down the rapid,
Yep.
and not like breaking the rapid down into multiple parts.
Yeah.
I see a lot of beginner kayakers doing that.
I call it the turtle syndrome. When you notice when someone get ready to run a rapid, instead of sitting up tall and forward and pushing their paddle out in front of them,
Hmm.
they sit back, and you notice their posture comes in, but their paddle is at their chest,
Yep.
and they're paddling on the sides. And once they do that, that water's going to flip them. So,
Hmm.
get out of that turtle posture and get into that sitting up tall, sitting forward, get the paddle as far away from you as possible in front of you,
Yep. Get
and
up on that bow.
get up on that bow and paddle, and the rest of it will just fall into place. Because even if you mess up through the rapid, if you're in that position, you will have it. Everything's going to get corrected faster and easier than just being smacked around.
Absolutely.
So,
That's great advice. All right, are you ready to run the rapids?
sure,
You ready to run some rapids, Pete?
I'm ready.
So the
Let's go.
rapids are our Mount Rushmore segment. Okay. I
All right,
love rankings and I love Mount Rushmores where you give a topic and you got to think of your 3 to 5, but we'll go with 4 since there's 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. I'm gonna throw out a topic and you got to just rapid fire. We're running the rapids. You got to tell me your top 4 of these categories. You ready?
sure.
All right. Top 4 kayak designs ever that you've paddled.
Oh, top four kayak designs.
Yeah.
That one's going to be tough. I would definitely say the Crazy 88, because that's in my heart. That's
Yeah.
my favorite
That's your
boat.
favorite playboat.
So creek boat, oh man, I don't know. I never really had a favorite creek boat. If you gave me a boat, I'd paddle it. It wouldn't really make a difference to me, as long as, as long as it didn't have holes in it and it floated, I'd paddle it down a creek.
But the
So,
Crazy 88 is your favorite boat of all time.
favorite boat of all time, and
All right.
that boat's in my heart because I've paddled everything in that boat, everywhere.
All right.
So,
Your Mount Rushmore, your top 4 rivers of all time.
top four rivers of
I mean, it
all
doesn't have to be
time.
the hardest, doesn't have to be the most exotic,
Gotcha.
just your personal favorites.
Okay, personal favorite. Um, I'd say the first one would be the Nanahala, because that's the river I learned on.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I think it's one of the most beautiful rivers, and also because it's so cold, it'll teach you how to roll pretty quick. So you got to learn those skills to not flip over in the cold water. But I love that river. The second one, I got to say the Futalefu down in Chile. That river was just magnificent, and yeah, it
The
was one of the
turquoise
most.
waters look like cool
Ah,
mint Listerine.
yeah, it was just magnificent. The next one I would say would be the Golly River.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Golly River. That was one of my favorite rivers. And man, there's so many other rivers I paddle that are right up there.
The green, the
The
Ecoe.
Green, yeah, the Narrows of the Green. I gotta say, I love the Narrows of the Green, but it always made me nervous every time I paddle that. The
Well, sure.
adrenaline.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
good.
it
If you
was
don't
up
get
there.
nervous on the green,
Yeah.
you need to have your heart checked.
But if someone gave me a choice and said, like, you can go to the Green or you can go to the Ocoee, I'd take the Ocoee, because I like creeking, but I love playboating. Like, I'm
Yep.
obsessed with playboating. So for me, I'm more of a playboater than a creeker. Um, the Ocoee's in my heart too, because it's just that river I learned on, and I love that river. But I'm going to add one other one, and it's more because it's one of the most beautiful rivers. Section of the river I'd say is section 2 of the Chattooga, and if you've never done that section, you need to do it because it is spectacular. And I did a lot of float trips down there with beginner kayakers, It's warm, but it's just surreal. You're like in another planet.
Hmm.
So those are my top 4 with a little one add to
Okay.
it.
Um, what about your favorite countries to paddle in?
Favorite countries to paddle in. Chile would be number 1. Ecuador. Let's see. Um, I guess Canada,
Yep.
US. Those would
Yep.
be my 4.
That's a good four.
Yeah.
All right. Name a river or two or three that you've never done that you're like, this has to be done as a bucket list. A river I've never done, but I've got to get on.
Oh, Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I'm gonna do that. That's my bucket list, and I definitely want to kayak that whole river. And I need to do that soon
Yeah.
because I think the older I get, the harder that's going to be.
Yeah. I'm with you there. All right. You ready for the final flow?
Sure.
So this is kind of a, as we get older, I've been thinking a lot about, like, we don't remember a lot of times the last time we did things. There's a last time you changed a diaper, but you didn't know it was the last time. There's a last time you're going to drop
Oh,
your kid off at school, but you didn't know it was the last time.
yeah.
So now the river gods and goddesses have come down and they said, Pete, this is your last time ever in a kayak. You've got 1 day left in a kayak. What river are you on? What boat are you in? And who's in your crew?
Okay. So I'd have to say I would be. Man, I'd like to be in my crazy '88, but I don't
Well,
know
it's
if
your
I.
final flow. You
All
can do
right,
whatever boat you
if
want.
this is the last time, then I'm gonna die on this river. It's gonna
Well,
be
no one
like
says you're dying. You're just saying
it's my last time
you
paddling. I'm
can't
not.
kayak
That's
again
it.
after
It's
this
over.
day. So,
It's
all
over
right.
after that day. I would say the Foo Foo.
Yep.
Of course, it would be you. Hands down, man. That would be a freaking epic trip to go down there. And let's see, who else would take with me? Definitely take Ryan Bodran. He would be another person I'd take, just because he's always been a fun person to paddle with and just laid back, real easygoing. Shane Williams would be another one because he's just great to have on the river. Great adventure. Man, it's hard to just narrow it down to
Well,
4.
it's your crew,
It's
man. You
tough.
can have as many as you
Yeah,
want.
I'd want to. Oh, I can have as many as I want.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give you two more if you got it.
Yeah, I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out. I'd have to invite just because I did so many trips. It would be Andrew Wilmot, and
Yep.
he would be one of the best people to go down a river with. Because again, he's just having someone to go down with that's just fun, carefree. That would be an incredible crew. I definitely have. These are all our old crew that we used to
Right.
paddle with. Aaron Napoleon and Craig Parks and all those boys. I mean, that it's just we all learned how to paddle together, and we try to still paddle to this day. We try to get together once in a while and paddle together. So that's
So
kind of
that's the
a
crew. We're gonna
that'd
get
be
that
the
crew
crew.
together and go to the Fuda.
Heck yeah, I'd love to
And
do that.
would you
That'd be great.
trade one more day on the Fuda and then never kayak again, or you get to kayak until you can't, but you never get to go back to the Fuda?
Oh, I'd kayak until I can't. Never
Okay,
go
you
back to the
wouldn't
Fuda.
trade just 1 day on the
No,
Fuda. I
no,
think I would.
no, I wouldn't. Because then after that, you're gonna be
You-
like, oh
what's the
man,
one?
what am I gonna
Are you?
do? I can't.
Yeah,
I do have dirt bike riding, and I would ride my dirt bike every day, and it would
man, that
it
would
would
be
fill. But just to be in that position, it would make me want to kayak
right.
more.
Yeah,
I'd be like, I want to go
yeah. I've
more.
got to go
So
now.
yeah,
More now,
that wouldn't be
for
fair at
sure.
all. But yeah, I mean, some of these rivers you asked me, like what my favorite one. There's so many rivers that are up there, and so many different adventures we had. It's hard to narrow all this down to just a few.
Well,
So
that's why I asked these
yeah, it's
these.
it's hard.
That's why I asked the. I mean, this is capital J journalism. I'm asking
Yeah,
tough questions here. This is not letting my,
yeah,
my guest off easy. Well, Pete, man, thanks for being on B Flow sessions, and thanks for being in the flow of my life for over 20 years. I think we're fast approaching like our 30-year
yeah.
friend anniversary coming up here in a couple years. So,
That's right. That's right.
just you've always been in the flow of my life, and now we're finding the flow again paddling. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on this podcast. This is a great, learning I should say learning experience, but to reminisce about all this that I haven't thought about in so long, and it brings back all these great memories, and I really appreciate you having me on this podcast. It's been
Yeah.
great.
Well, thanks to everybody for listening to the first episode of B Flow Sessions. You can find B Flow Sessions on all the podcast platforms, Spotify and Apple Music to be specific. Please rate the show, leave a comment, and share with other people in your life who are looking to find the flow on the river and just in life in general. Until next time, I'm Brad Burton. Thanks for listening to B Flow Sessions.